The Rosetta Stone, the key that unlocked ancient Egypt. For nearly 2,000 years, the language of ancient Egypt was lost. The walls of temples, tombs, and obelisks were covered with hieroglyphs, thousands of intricate symbols that no one could read. They spoke of kings and gods, of life and death, of eternity itself, yet their voices were silent. That silence endured until 1799, when a group of French soldiers digging in the Egyptian town of Rosetta uncovered a slab of black basalt that would change the world. It would become one of the most important archaeological discoveries in history. The Rosetta Stone, the key that unlocked an ancient civilization's forgotten language. In the late 18th century, Europe was in the age of Napoleon, an era of conquest, curiosity, and discovery. In 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte led a military expedition into Egypt, not only to expand his empire, but to study the mysteries of the ancient land. He brought with him an army of scholars, engineers, and scientists known as the savants, the brightest minds of France. Their mission was to map the country, document its antiquities, and uncover the secrets of one of humanity's oldest civilizations. It was during the construction of a fort near the town of Rashid, known to Europeans as Rosetta, that French soldiers stumbled upon a large inscribed stone. It was broken, its top missing, but the remaining surface bore 3 bands of text carved with extraordinary precision. The first was written in hieroglyphic script, the sacred writing of Egypt's priests. The second, in Demotic, the cursive form used for everyday Egyptian writing. The third, in Ancient Greek, a language that scholars could read. The soldiers had no idea, but they had found a message across time, a bilingual key to a lost world. When the scholars examined the stone, they realized what they were holding. A decree issued in 196 BC during the reign of Ptolemy V, a Greek ruler of Egypt. The same text had been written in all 3 languages so that priests, officials, and Greek administrators could each read it. That meant that the Greek version could, in theory, be used to decode the hieroglyphs above it, a linguistic bridge across centuries of silence. But then history intervened. In 1801, the British defeated the French in Egypt, and the Rosetta Stone was taken to London as part of the surrender. Since then, it has been housed in the British Museum, where it remains to this day, the single most visited artifact in the collection. The challenge of deciphering the hieroglyphs now began. For centuries, scholars had believed that the symbols were purely decorative or symbolic, not a written language, but mystical signs. The ancient Egyptians themselves had long since forgotten how to read them by the time of Cleopatra. The last hieroglyphs ever written date to the 4th century AD. Now, nearly 1,400 years later, scholars faced a riddle written in stone. Early attempts came from linguists across Europe, but progress was slow. In 1814, Thomas Young, an English polymath, made the first breakthrough. By comparing the Greek text to the hieroglyphs, he identified a group of symbols that represented the name Ptolemy, encircled in an oval called a cartouche. He realized that some hieroglyphs represented sounds, not ideas, a radical insight that overturned centuries of assumption. But it was a young French linguist named Jean-François Champollion who would finally solve the puzzle. Champollion had been obsessed with Egypt since childhood. A gifted linguist, fluent in Latin, Greek, Arabic, and Coptic, the last surviving descendant of the ancient Egyptian language, he dedicated his life to decoding the hieroglyphs. Building on Young's discoveries, he spent years comparing inscriptions, cross-referencing words, and studying patterns. Then, in 1822, he made the breakthrough that changed history. By analyzing the names of pharaohs like Ptolemy and Cleopatra across different inscriptions, he recognized recurring sound values, proving that hieroglyphs were a phonetic system capable of representing spoken language. When he tested his theory on other inscriptions, it worked. At last, after 1,400 years, the words of ancient Egypt spoke again. Overcome with emotion, Champollion is said to have burst into his brother's office, shouting, "I've got it!" before collapsing to the floor in exhaustion. With the key unlocked, the floodgates of history opened. For the first time, scholars could read the inscriptions that covered the temples of Karnak and Luxor, the tombs of the Valley of the Kings, and the papyri buried with the dead. Egypt's history, religion, science, and poetry came alive once more. Texts that had been silent for millennia told stories of creation, kingship, and the journey of the soul. The Rosetta Stone had given humanity back its memory. The stone itself is a fragment about 114 centimeters tall and weighing over 760 kilograms. Its inscription, though broken, is still legible, a decree affirming the divine cult of King Ptolemy V. The text celebrates his generosity toward the temples and priests of Egypt. Political propaganda, perhaps, but preserved in a form that made it immortal. Its trilingual structure, hieroglyphic, demotic, Greek, was typical of the Ptolemaic era, when Egypt was ruled by Greek-speaking monarchs descended from Alexander the Great's general, Ptolemy I. Ironically, what was once a simple administrative decree became the single most valuable key to understanding one of history's greatest civilizations. Today, linguists estimate that Egypt's hieroglyphic system contained more than 700 symbols, blending phonetic letters with pictorial meaning. Through Champollion's work and later discoveries, entire libraries of Egyptian texts became readable, including religious hymns, medical treatises, astronomical charts, and love poems. We learned how the ancient Egyptians measured time, healed wounds, and dreamed of immortality. Every symbol, once mysterious, became a voice. The owl stood for the sound M, the reed leaf for I, the seated man for A. Together, they formed names and sentences that had not been read since Cleopatra's time. But the story of the Rosetta Stone is not only one of discovery, it's also a story of ownership, identity, and cultural memory. For over 2 centuries, Egypt has demanded the return of the stone, arguing that it is a symbol of their lost heritage taken during colonial occupation. The British Museum maintains that it was acquired legally and has preserved it for the world. The debate continues, a modern echo of the same power struggles that shaped history itself. Yet perhaps the stone's true power lies not in where it sits, but in what it gave back, the ability to connect across time. It is a bridge between civilizations, between the living and the dead, between words once spoken and words rediscovered. Without the Rosetta Stone, ancient Egypt might have remained forever silent. The pyramids, temples, and tombs would still stand, but their meaning, their soul, would be lost. Because of that single stone, we can read the Book of the Dead, the hymns to Ra, the letters of artisans, and the prayers of farmers. Through it, the ancient Egyptians speak again, telling us who they were and reminding us who we are. The Rosetta Stone teaches us a timeless truth that knowledge is never truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered. And sometimes, all it takes to open the past is one voice, carved in stone, whispering across the centuries. If you're fascinated by the past and the way it still shapes our world today, you're in the right place. Subscribe, comment, share, and join us again on Human Odyssey Through Time, where history's most haunting mysteries, places, and people are brought back to life. And if you'd like to help us keep telling these stories, consider supporting us on patreon.com/Human Odyssey Through Time 2025. Your support helps bring forgotten history to light, one story at a time.